McDonald's getting grilled. Protesters, circling in on its Illinois headquarters ahead of a big shareholder meeting outside Chicago. What they want to see the big food player do is play nice on minimum wage, effectively doubling the minimum wage now to $15 an hour so that workers don't have to protest like they are in Illinois over these next couple of days. Things got so bad that McDonald's had to shut down some facilities just to account for the better than 2,000 protests, 50 of whom we're told were clergy, and most of the others were also told were union members. What to make of the big push for essentially doubling the wage? We've got Davis senior fellow Richard Benjamin joining us, as well as Fox Biz All-Stars Mattie Duppler, Scott Martin, Lenore Hawkins. I think I understand what's going on here, Rich, and maybe you can help me. The push now is to increase the minimum wage over 3 years to $10.10 an hour. These guys want 15. They know they're not going to get $15, but they sure as hell aren't going to settle with the 7-something now. So they're going to get what they want by leveraging and making bosses around America think, count your lucky stars, it's not 15. You'll happily give us the 10-10. What do you think?
I don't think that's the only logic. The main logic is no. They want to get bigger. They want a fair wage. Many of these folks can't support their families on a wage, and so it's not just a question.
That's not a fair wage; it's doubling it.
It's not just a question of what the wage is in terms of doubling it. It's the CEO disparity that's also part of this conversation. 1,000 to 1 in 2013. McDonald's CEO, other fast food CEOs making 1,000 to 1 to the lowest workers' wages.
Why don't we call the fast food industry for what it is? Franchise operations. So these are franchisees you're talking about. They're not making millions of dollars a year. So they have businesses to run. Let's say their pay is egregious to you as well. What are they going to have to do if they have to double that wage to $15 an hour?
But it's the McDonald's brand, whether it's the franchise.
No, I'm just talking about those
CEOs.
operations. What's going to happen if you double it to 15?
They can. They very much well can. It's not just the franchises. It's the McDonald's
and we're
brand.
not going to pay more for burgers or fries or anything.
The problem is, here's the problem. The problem is that what we're discovering is that these disparate inequality wages are hurting not just McDonald's, but the economy in general. So it's hurting the McDonald's
Wait, what about all the other people along the food chain, no pun intended, in that same operation that are earning 11 or 12 bucks an hour, and these guys suddenly jump to 15? You're going to have to increase their pay as well.
It's hurting performance. It's hurting service.
Just that. You see where this cycle goes?
Increasing wages, that's not a bad thing. It's not as though Congress isn't getting a wage increase. So if it has this ripple effect,
I mean, this isn't a little wage increase, Scott.
Wages should increase normally along with economic growth. I mean, that's the problem, Neil. To your point, or what you're talking about, you can't force higher wages. The economy has to be able to accept it. And you mentioned, I mean, the franchisees, Neil, they're the ones that are out there running these businesses. The majority of them at McDonald's are franchisees owners. Those are small businesses that have said they cannot afford the $15 an hour. The NRA, National Restaurant Association, came out and said there would be massive job loss if that went through. So I don't understand how this is even possible.
Lenore, I could certainly see the wisdom of paying a higher minimum wage and maybe indexing it to inflation to end this sordid ritual and this fake drama that we get all the time. But $15 isn't it. I don't even know at this time being in this murky and dicey recovery, 10-10 is it. The scale over 3 years or not. So I think it would be more important for businesses to be encouraged to get folks in the door, get more people in the door, then we'll debate about how much more they can be paid.
Absolutely. We keep hampering on that we need more jobs. We need more jobs. And now what are we doing? We're going to make it more expensive to give somebody a job. And why is it that we're going to force some sort of a pay level? Why 15? Why not 20? Why not 25?
Well, there's some Los Angeles legislator wants that. Maybe a friend of yours.
No. This is the problem. This is the problem. They say, oh, you can't force wages. You can't force wages. They're forcing the CEO wages just fine. They are, absolutely. The shareholders, thank goodness.
The problem is if the disparity is the issue for you, why is $15 okay? If you're talking about a corporate CEO who is making, let's say, $1 million, $15 is nothing compared to that. Why is that an acceptable acceptable
I'll
premise
tell you
for
why.
you.
This is the delightful thing, is that the shareholders at Chipotle voted down a $25 million pay package for each of their co-CEOs because they've come to the realization that this vast inequality is not beneficial
But
for
you
the
know what's
shareholder.
even more unequal?
So
And the
this
thing that
is
we
the
know
good
is
thing.
going to happen if we hike the minimum wage to $10.10, the Congressional Budget Office already told us exactly what's going to happen. We're going to lose 500,000 to 1 million jobs. So
They
you
say
know
that
what's
all the
bad.
time.
They say that all the time because
In
it's
Washington
true.
State, the minimum
cascading
wage
effect.
is higher than the national average.
In Washington State, they
and
don't have
that
an
economy
income
is
tax. The
fine.
burden's
Well,
different than
you
business
work under the
burden.
logic, Professor. I've heard this before, that these folks, once they get more money, will disproportionately spend it. And at the very fast food restaurants they're at. You lose sight of the fact, though, that a lot of these same restaurants will have to lay off workers to account for this or continue automating. Now, you don't strike me as a fast food guy. You're very thin and fit. This is a business I know well. You stop at a Turnpike or any place, you get your own food, you get your own soda, you practically cook it because it's all automated. Now, I have nothing against that because I take some extra hamburgers and no one knows about it. My point is, though, that the price of that stuff also exponentially goes up as the costs go up. And if you haven't heard, there is this healthcare law that is adding to these guys' costs.
Oh, dear.
There are regulations adding to these guys' costs. And I'm all for paying them more. But first of all, I'm all for the businesses making enough to provide that. You don't seem to be thinking of average Americans buying the burgers, buying the fries, and paying through the nose.
Demos, my think tank organization, has done many studies saying that if you raise the minimum wage, in fact, you don't have to pass that cost to consumer. Hamburgers don't have
come
to.
on.
That's
You
the thing.
double
The
it.
franchise
You
owners have
double
said
it.
they're gonna
You
pay
have to
us.
buy
You're not just gonna eat
burgers.
These corporations have these share
Oh, it's
buyback
a
programs.
mythical
They're not
pot of gold.
corporations, they're
They have
individual
a
business
share.
owners,
Yeah,
Rick.
they have a
Buyback
mythical pot
programs
of
where
gold.
that's where they're investing it. But you really don't have to pass
Let's say,
it on to the consumer.
look, hypothetically, let's say you're right. You're not, by the way. I love you dearly. But let's say you're right. Americans are drawn to value. Value meals, going to Walmart, value pricing and all that. Every time McDonald's or someone else has had to increase the price of those value meals, their business flutters away. Walmart, just this week, warning the customers aren't there. That's with wages the way they are now.
You know, you made the important point that
I make many of them.
Many of them, but one of the things that we just glance on is the fact that McDonald's is mostly a franchise enterprise.
Small business
About
owners.
90% of these guys out here
Doesn't
are
matter.
people.
They're all
and
millionaires.
maybe a guy in downtown
The
Chicago.
CEO.
Maybe a guy in
This is a
downtown
brand
Chicago
issue. This
can
is a-
have
It's not a brand
minimum
issue.
wage.
This is a franchise.
Franchises have rules. This is a brand issue. This is a national issue of minimum wage. We have many states whose minimum wage is higher than the national
Okay,
average.
let's put
On average,
wages
they're
aside.
doing.
Let's just set wages for every industry. I think
the workers don't want to set wages
anchors
aside.
should be paid $1 billion a year.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, and name any industry that can handle a doubling of the cost of one of the inputs
Math
into their
doesn't come into
product,
play.
and it doesn't affect the
No.
prices.
Look,
Fast
that
food
doesn't
is that
exist
industry.
anywhere. Labor is
Fast
something
food
special.
is the hallmark
You don't care about
inequality.
fast food. You don't eat fast food.
It's the hallmark inequality industry.
I know what this
You
is
can't
about.
just call it any
you
industry.
want me to feel
Oh,
this so
because
I
it's
don't go to
it-
fast food. You're
then
actually
the
looking
math
after
is
my
different.
health. All right. I wish we had more time. Blessedly,